Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind howling around you, whispering a truth you've always known but never dared to face. Rejection doesn't just sting, it carves into your soul, exposing a raw, trembling part of you that begs to be understood. We've all felt it. That sharp pang when someone turns away, they're no echoing louder than any words of praise ever could. But what if that pain isn't a curse? What if it's a signal? A call from the depths of your being, pleading for you to listen. You've spent so much time running from rejection, dodging its shadow like it's a predator waiting to devour you. Yet, in your frantic escape, you've missed the quiet truth. It's not out to destroy you, it's here to save you. Every time someone walks away, every time a door slams shut, it's not their judgment that cuts deepest. It's the mirror they hold up, reflecting the doubts you've buried, the fears you've refused to name. Carl Jung once said that what irritates us in others is a map to our own uncharted wilderness. Rejection, then, isn't about them, it's about you. A spotlight on the parts of yourself you've kept in the dark. Think about it. That last time you were rejected, what stung most wasn't their words, but how they echoed something you already believed. Deep down, you've been carrying a silent suspicion that you're not enough. They just confirmed it. We live in a world obsessed with approval, chasing likes and nods like they're the oxygen we need to survive. But the more you grasp for that external yes, the more you hand over your power to hands that don't even know you. There's a cruel irony here. The harder you try to win someone over, the more they pull away. Neediness repels, it's a universal law written in the quiet instincts of the human heart. Picture yourself begging for a crumb of validation, your worth dangling on someone else's whim. Now imagine letting go, standing tall, not because you don't care, but because you've realized you don't need them to. That's where the shift begins, in the uncomfortable space where you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. It's not indifference, it's a fierce, quiet strength that says, I am enough, even if you don't see it. Jung called this individuation the journey of stitching together your fractured pieces into something whole. It's messy, it's painful, but it's the only path to a freedom that doesn't bend to anyone's gaze. How many times have you betrayed yourself, twisting into shapes you thought others wanted? And how many times did that betrayal end in rejection anyway, proving the futility of the game? The secret no one tells you is that real magnetism doesn't come from being loved by everyone. It comes from the courage to stand alone, to radiate a mystery that doesn't beg for applause. Look around. The world is drowning in pleas for attention. People shouting into the void, desperate for a spotlight. But the ones who truly draw us in there, the ones who've stopped shouting, who've found peace in their own skin. When you chase, you lose. When you cling, you push away to paradox as old as time. The moment you release that desperate grip, something shifts, and the world starts to lean toward you. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. The understanding that your value isn't a gift someone else bestows. It's a flame you carry, one that burns brighter when you stop begging for fuel. Now, let's dig deeper into the shadow you've been avoiding. The part of you that whispers doubts in the dead of night. That shadow isn't your enemy. You're a teacher, waiting for you to stop running and listen. Every rejection you've faced, every no that's bruised you, it's been a message, a signpost pointing to the wounds you've ignored. Ignore it, and it festers. Face it, and it heals, transforming into strength you didn't know you had. We're taught to fear our flaws, to hide them behind masks of perfection. But what if that's the lie keeping us small? What if the cracks are where the light seeps in, where your true power begins? Social media parades a circus of polished lives, but beneath the filters lies a quiet desperation. The most compelling souls don't hide their scars, they wear them, proof of battles fought and lessons won. Think of someone you admire, someone whose presence pulls you in without effort. Chances are, they faced their darkness, not to conquer it, but to dance with it, unafraid of its weight. Rejection hurts because it echoes a rejection you've already inflicted on yourself. Every time you silence your own voice to fit in, you're the one turning away, not them. The real wound isn't out there, it's in the moments you've chosen safety over truth, approval over authenticity. That's the rejection that cuts deepest, because it's the one you can't blame on anyone else. But here's the twist. What if you stopped fighting that inner no? What if you turned toward it, asked it what it's trying to show you, and listened without fear? Jung believed our shadows hold the keys to our wholeness, that they're not demons, but guides. Every time life repeats a painful pattern, it's your shadow knocking, begging you to let it in. Most people never answer that knock. They drown it out with noise, with distractions, with endless quests for validation. But those who do, who dare to sit with their chaos, they find something extraordinary waiting. Imagine a life where rejection doesn't shake you, where a no is just a whisper against the roar of your own certainty. That's not a fantasy. That's not a fantasy, it's the reward for facing what you feared most. The paradox is breathtaking. The more you shield yourself from rejection, the more you reject the parts of you that could set you free. Protection becomes a prison, and vulnerability becomes the key. We're so busy building walls that we forget what's trapped inside our own potential, restless and untamed. Tear them down, and you'll find a strength that doesn't need anyone's permission to shine. Now, picture this. You achieve everything you've ever wanted, every yes, every triumph, and still feel empty. That's the proof that what you seek isn't out there, but in the quiet space you've been too scared to enter. The trap is thinking someone else holds your completion, that their approval is the missing piece. The truth is, it's been in you all along, waiting for you to stop looking outward and start digging within. Why do we wait then for a nod from the world before we dare to live? Fear, it's always fear, whispering that we're not enough unless someone else says we are. But what if you're the only one who needs to say it? What if the moment you do, the world's opinion fades into static, powerless against your own voice? Life has a funny way of rewarding the brave, the ones who step out of line and live by their own compass. They don't fit in, they stand out, not because they try, but because they've stopped trying. The most magnetic people don't chase attention, they ignore it, and that's why we can't look away. Their power isn't in what they do, but in what they've refused to need. So here's the shift. Stop seeing rejection as a verdict and start seeing it as a question: what am I still hiding from myself? Every no is an invitation to peel back another layer, to grow truer. When you stop needing the world to approve, something wild happens. It starts to seek you out. Not because you've tricked it, but because authenticity is a rare and reckless beauty. This isn't about isolation or arrogance, it's about connection, real and raw, born from a place of fullness, not lack. You attract what matters when you're no longer begging for scraps. Imagine choosing yourself, not as a last resort, but as the first step, the only step that counts. What would shift if you looked in the mirror and saw not flaws, but a story worth telling? Rejection loses its teeth when you realize it's just a shadow of your own doubt, cast by a light you can control. Turn it off, and the shadow vanishes, leaving only you, whole and unafraid. So here's the question I'll leave you with, the one that lingers long after these words fade. If you knew, right now, that you'd never need anyone's approval again, how would you live differently? What would you finally dare to become?